So on number 1, if you say that the greatest common factor is 7b, that's incorrect, because it's not the GCF. G means greatest, right? So you want the greatest common factor. So there is 14, which is greater than 7, that'll fit in both. So we need a 14 with a b out here. That's your GCF. And then we think 14 times what will get us 42? Well, that'll be 14 times positive 3. And then 14 times what will get us a negative 28? That's a negative 2. And of course, we need an a also. So you don't even need that plus in front of the plus in front of the 3. So why 14? Because 14 is the greatest. 7 works, but 14 is greater. Look, let's pretend. Okay, let's go back and let's actually do 7. Let's say that you thought that the GCF was 7b, right? Yeah. If you pull out a 7b times what gets you a 42b? 6. And then minus what? 4. And of course there's an a right here. So if you got that, you're still not done. Why? Because 7b was not the greatest. So in other words, if you look at the inside, the 6 is here, the 4 is here, you could still pull out a what?
A 3.
A 2. The multiple of 2, right? So you could divide this by 2 and divide that by 2. You could pull out the multiple of 2. So in other words, if you did pull out that multiple of 2, but then you'd have to still multiply it by the 7b that's out here.
So you're doing way more work.
You're doing way more work. So it's better to pull out the greatest common factor. So you'd end up with the same answer, 14b, but you'd have to do more work. So that's why we call this a GCF, because that's the greatest common factor, and you end up with the answer right away. So use a calculator, guys, right? Don't just go with the first thing that you see. On this guy, you want to think of what is common, right? 18, 36, and 24. 6 is common. Is there anything greater? A 9? No, 9 works here, but not here. 12? No. Yeah, so it looks like 6 is the greatest. So number 2, when we start factoring, we say, yeah, there's a multiple of 6 in common, but there's also something else in all the terms. There's also an x in all the terms. So your GCF is 6 and an x, 6x together. 6 times, because of the 18, the 36, and the 24, they're all divisible by 6. Right? So when I say 6x times what gets me an 18?
3.
Yep, that'd be 3 with an a, x squared. And then 6x times what gets us a 36? That's going to be a positive 6, a b, and 1x. And last but not least, 6x times 4c. And that's all you could do, and we're done with number 2. That's exactly how it's going to be on tomorrow's quiz. Let's move on to number 3 here. Now, number 3, there is nothing in common in all 3 terms, so you can't pull out a GCF. So we're moving on to the other type of factoring, the one with the shortcut, a quadratic trinomial where there's no number in front. It's nice and easy. So we do this, look. H, what times what is 81? That if you add together is 30. If you don't know, just start 1 times 81. 2 doesn't work. 3 times 27. 4 doesn't work. 9 times 9.
Yeah, but 9 times 9 is 30.
Okay. So out of all those pair of numbers, you pick the numbers that if you add gives you the middle value b, which happens to be 30. So we're going to put that positive 3 and that positive 27 right in there. And it doesn't matter if you put the 3 here or over here. If you put the 27 over here, it's fine also. It doesn't matter the order. But that's your answer. You're done. There's nothing else to do. Let's move on to number 4. Same thing. Shortcut time. Parenthesis, and right there, and right here. What times what is negative 40 that if you add together is positive 3, Oliver? What times what is negative 40 that if you add together is positive 3? Make a list. Negative 1 times 40. Negative 2 times 20. Negative 3 doesn't work. Negative 4 times 10. Negative 5 times 8. That's about all the possible ways of getting it. Which pair of numbers combines together to give you the middle value? Yep, negative 5 times 8. And you don't have to change any signs, because if you actually add negative 5 and 8, you will get a positive 3, so you're ready to go.
Yes, sir.
That's it. Minus 5 right there, plus 8 over there. A lot of us desperately need a good grade here tomorrow, guys. So let's get this. Number 5. Look how easy this is, right? You're just all shortcuts, thinking, yeah, what times what is 56? Yeah, so if we say 7 times 8 is 56, yeah, but if you add it, it's positive 15 and we want a negative 15. So we have the right numbers, we just need to change the signs. So I don't have to make a long list if right off the bat I see which numbers work. Like Jocelyn said, 7 and 8, I already know that that's a correct pair of numbers, so I don't need to make the list. Minus 7, minus 8, we're done. Number 6. So all of these have been really easy and quick if you think about it. T, what times what is negative 63, that if you combine together is positive 2. Negative 1 times 63. Negative 2 times something doesn't work. Negative 3 times 21. What was that? 7. Okay, so you guys are already telling me the right pair of numbers. You said negative 7 times positive 9. That will give us a negative 63. If I add them together, does it give me a positive 2? No. Yes, it does. Right? If you owe 7 and you have 9, you're going to have 2 left over. So I don't have to change any signs. This is the correct pair of numbers. That's what I'm plugging in right there. And I'm done. So far, I think we could all have an A on this, right?
Yeah.
So far. Now, check this out. These next 2 questions are actually worth twice as much, 4 points. So why are they worth 4 points? Because it's factoring by grouping, and that's like, it requires a lot of work. Now, you can't just say, oh, I'm going to skip these 2, because that would be skipping 4 points out of the 15, and that's going to kill your grade, right? So don't skip them. Let's just practice. The first step on factoring by grouping is to make the 2 groups. Put some distance between the first 2 terms and the second 2 terms. So write it out. 12x squared plus 4x space plus 9x plus 3. And then we're going to factor the first group. What could you pull out of there?
4x.
A 4 and an x.
Yeah.
And what do we have left if we pull out a 4x?
1x.
A 3x plus 1.
Damn, John.
And if on the second one, what could we pull out?
3.
A regular 3. And what do we have left?
3x plus 1.
3x plus 1. And now that we have that common binomial in the first group and the second group, we take a step back. So I zoom out a little. We put some exaggerated parentheses right here. And on the outside, I'm going to put that common binomial of 3x plus 1. And on the inside, what do I have left? I have a 4x plus 3 left over.
Oh, what?
And that's it. 3x plus 1, 4x plus 3. So even these hard ones that are worth 2 points aren't that hard.
Yeah, they are.
Not really.
I'm going to fail it.
4x what?
Step 1. Step 1 is to make 2 groups. Step 2 is to factor something out of the first group. What could we factor out?
4x.
4 and an x. What's left over?
3y.
3y
2.
minus 2. How about the second group? What could I factor out?
5.
A regular 5. And if I factor that out,
3y minus 2.
okay, so here are my exaggerated parentheses. What goes on the outside? 3y minus 2. And on the inside, 4x plus 5. But the only reason I make them this big is so you could visually see that right here there was a common binomial and now it's gone. So I leave it like that so you could see that it's missing. So, because if not, students get confused. This and this get pulled out to the front. That's why they're not there anymore. So I put the space there just so you could understand it. I mean, if I'm doing a quiz, I'm not going to write it like that, but I'm doing it right now, especially I'm recording, so you could see that it's out. But anyways, yeah, the correct size parenthesis would be 3y minus 2 times 4x plus 5. That would be your answer right there. 2 points each right there. Don't skip them. Right here, these are pretty easy. If you have an equation on this section, we're going to set it equal to 0 and then factor, split, and solve. Okay? So it is equal to 0. I could factor, split, and solve. So the only type of factoring that I could do here is pulling out the GCF. What's the GCF? 7 and an x. What's left over on the inside? 1x plus 10. Okay, so what are we going to use here? We're going to use a zero product property. If I have something times something else and it equals 0, then the first something could be 0 and the second something could be 0, which means that we're going to get two answers. Solve this one by dividing by 7. You're going to get x equals 0. That's one answer. The other one, yep. And even though you know the answer in your head, I still want to see this work on the quiz tomorrow.
Bless you.
Bless you. So those are your two answers that you're going to write on the side over here. Right? So you're going to have to write those answers right here, 0 and 10.
What if it like accidentally didn't put like a negative? Will that still count?
You don't get full credit if you forget a sign. Now, number 12, it's already factored for you, so it's really easy. All you have to do is zero product property, split, and solve. So you're going to have x minus 9 equals 0, 4x plus 1 equals 0. Add 9 to both sides, x equals 9. Over here, subtract 1, you're going to have a new equation that reads 4x equals negative 1. Okay, sorry about that. We're going to divide by 4 here, divide by 4 there. X equals negative 1/4. That's another answer. So those are your two answers for number 12. Let's go to number 13. Number 13 does not have it equal to 0 yet. So you want to first make it equal 0. So you're going to subtract 72x, subtract 72x. Let's rewrite it. 9x squared minus 72x equals nothing. And now that we have it equal to 0, now we could factor, split, and solve. It's all about factor, splitting, and solving. So yes, we're going to pull out a 9 with an x. What do we have left over? An x minus 8, and that's it. Equals 0. So now we really do have something times something equals 0. So we're going to take that first something and set it equal to 0. We're going to take that second something and set it equal to 0. So you're going to divide by 9, x equals 0. That's one answer. Plus 8, x equals 8 is another answer. Let's move on to number 14. Number 14 is not equal to 0 yet, so what do I do first?
Subtract 32.
Subtract 32. Subtract 32. You can't really subtract it. Let's rewrite it. N squared plus 4n minus 32 equals 0. So we have this quadratic trinomial with the a value of 1. Now we could factor by setting up the factored form n right there, n right there. What times what is negative 32 that if you combine together is positive 4? Negative 1 times 32, negative 2 times 16, negative 3 doesn't work, negative 4 times 8, negative, that's about it, right? So negative 4 and 8, and those are good. You don't have to change any signs, so you just put that minus 4 right there, that plus 8 right there. It is equal to 0. So now you're going to be able to split it and solve. If this one times this one equals 0, the first one, n minus 4, could equal 0, and the second one, n plus 8, could equal 0, which means that you get two answers. This answer is going to be n equals 4, and n equals -8.
Get it right on this thing. I feel like you're just
Last one, 15. What do I do first? Subtract 17a. It's going to cancel. Subtract 17a. So let's rewrite everything. We're going to have an a squared minus 17a plus 70. Notice that I put it in standard form. Your a squared first, your number with the a, and then your constant at the very end, set equal to 0. Now we could factor, split it, and solve. So when we think, what times what is 70, that if you combine together is -17.
7 and -10.
Yeah, -7 and -10. So some of us are thinking 7 times 10, that's 70. And if I add it together, it's 17. And that's great, but our b value is -17. So we have the right number. We just have the wrong signs. Change them both to negative. So we do have the a here, the a there. And we're going to have a -7 and a -10. So when we split them, because of zero product property, something times something equals 0. The first something could be 0, and the second something could be 0. That means that you get two answers. A equals 7, and A equals 10. Those are both answers right there. And you need both to get full credit. Now the bonus...
It's not factorable.
The bonus, notice that this one has an a value of 6. So this is just extra credit. If you want it, you have to go back and learn those steps, the multi-step process. I don't know if you remember, step 1 was supposed to be multiply a times c. A is 6, c is 3,
18.
so you get 18. Step 2 is to think of the multiples of that answer, 18. So 1 times 18, 2 times 9, 3 times 6, and think which pair of numbers combines together to give you the middle value, b, which happens to be a negative 10 in this case, and in this case, none. So this one's going to be not factorable. Now, that doesn't mean that tomorrow's bonus is going to be not factorable. So I recommend you guys go back and watch the videos from the notes that have this one explained in detail. That one was factorable. That's a better example to study for the bonus if you want that extra bonus point on tomorrow's quiz.